early to hit the ban bench.
Yeah, so what we see so often now, I say so often, it's been 6 games, but what we see in this patch is on red side, you're almost forced to ban away these top tier picks. We have Mordekaiser, Lulu, and Gangplank. You can see Team SoloMid already with the first 2 bans. This means obviously for KT, they have like a 3rd target ban they can aim for, or they can just pick the Mordekaiser, and therefore give Team SoloMid a chance to at least ban something outside of the top tier picks.
Well, Dyrus being one of the champions that's still left up, of those 100% pick and bans, we see 3 of them banned away. Yeah, Elise is that 5th one, so they're going to leave both of those 100%ers up. Braum also, alongside Thresh, are next on support, so TSM get number 2 and 3 in the sort of pick ban tier list.
Okay, so I like this from Team SoloMid. They're basically saying, we see what you're doing with this Mordekaiser. You want us to ban Dyrus and you get first pick Elise. Instead, they want to trade it, and because there's all things like Fiora, Braum is open, Kalista is open in the bottom lane. A lot of strong picks. You can take 2 of them and at least just trade the value of Darius for Elise. And I think that's a fair enough trade to make.
Can Dyrus handle a champion like Fiora, though? It's not exactly something that we see a lot in his wheelhouse. And keep in mind, we're about to see a game with Ssumday on Darius, guys.
I don't think it's Fiora. I think it's Lustboy playing Braum. He's 3-0 in the champion. I think Braum is far and away like the best of the supports left open.
I think you're right.
The thought, though, is Fiora is a flex pick. We've seen here some people play her in mid, as I would not like the Fiora Darius matchup.
Yeah, take the Braum here, because you want to take away as much as possible from KT. The Fiora should be open unless you want to run like a double physical solo lane composition from KT. I'm not expecting that at all. So Team SoloMid making the right choices with the first 2 picks. Question is just, can they keep Ssumday down now that he is on a Darius that can really get out of control?
I wonder, because we haven't seen Darius perform like super spectacularly yet in the tournament, but it's only been 1 day. Rek'Sai and Azir, the 2 picks locked in for KT.
I think it's very smart of KT to pick up Azir here. I think they're both Nagne and Bjergsen's best champions, at least statistically and just from what I've seen of them play. So I'm glad for Rolster's sake that they took this away. It's a big deal. It does still leave plenty of the other big team fighters up. Very few mid laners were banned here. So Bjergsen's got to go down that tier list a little bit.
I mean, Nagne is a great Azir as well, too. In Korea, Nagne and Coco really were the premier Azir players in very different styles, but Nagne is on something he's very comfortable with. He can stay back, be safe, farm up, be relevant late game.
And that's the key for KT around this mid lane here. We mentioned how Ssumday should be a better top laner than Dyrus. We talk about how Piccaboo and Score can out-roam Lustboy and Santorin. So the mid lane is where Team SoloMid had the big advantage. A safe laner like Azir, even though it's picked blind, I mean, you are on the blue side, you're already showing your solo laners.
All right.
It shows that KT were definitely ready for this. You need to know this can happen with LeBlanc and Zed being back in the meta. Bjergsen is going to take a matchup where he can win it. He needs help, though, from Santorin if they really want to shut down this Azir.
This honestly looks like a very good champ stack for Team SoloMid. It feels like they've baited every single one of these picks, and like looking at the picks and bans so far, these matchups look all very good for TSM. Knowing that they can go in with the Olaf into the Darius, I think which should be a very strong matchup for the Olaf. Elise can gank that lane. You can bully Darius out, and LeBlanc is a great assassin now. Once again, Azir is slower. Azir gets away from the ganks a bit weaker. There's some plays here for TSM.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the last pick just being a Sivir. It's going to synergize with the Olaf. It's a combination we haven't seen lately, but we saw a lot of Sivir yesterday as, again, one of these AD carries who would just focus on fast pushing waves, and then that ulti is still very valuable in the fights for Team SoloMid, unless they want maybe a tower pushing AD carry like a Tristana in there that can also handle herself in the lane.
You know, an Arrow just locked in Kog'Maw. This has been one of his best champions by far this last season, even though it's very weak, and you got to worry about a Kog'Maw into a champion like Olaf. If there's anyone, though, out there that can pull it off, it's certainly Arrow.
And this is going to be interesting because we know Piccaboo likes to leave that lane a lot. Kog'Maw thankfully has a lot of ranged farming tools, so getting away won't be the worst thing in the world for him down there. But Piccaboo roaming at Alistar, a great pick for him. He's going to be very comfortable making these kinds of plays. I do agree that Sivir makes a lot of sense here. It allows TSM to say, screw that, we'll dive your bot lane, much like we saw earlier yesterday.
Yeah, the only problem about Sivir is the lane matchup is not great. For WildTurtle, then it can be a little bit difficult for them to play it, especially one trade level 6 on the side of KT's bottom lane. But all again, you're building it more for the team comp. You have an Olaf who can get onto a low mobility AD carry, help him get there. Because if he's only running Ghost and nothing else, it's very difficult. We don't see as much Righteous Glory anymore. It's been nerfed. Again, Talisman is then getting out a little bit. But it seems like Team SoloMid are really looking for a lot of skill matchups here. They're not afraid to dance with KT.
I guess so. That is a bold pick for WildTurtle. You know, ADC who's been pretty criticized about his positioning, his mechanics throughout a couple seasons now.
Yeah.
Bringing in that Vayne, it's going to be interesting.
I only played it exactly once this split, and he did win on the champion, so TSM feeling comfortable on this one. And it feels like whenever we get to these big tournaments, there are players that really do well on this stage and players that really play up to their big sort of expectations here. WildTurtle had one of his very best games on his very first game on TSM when it was like, look, you can replace KX here if you show up. We'll see if he gets that kind of performance here today.
I want to see Team SoloMid, though, punish up in this top lane. Olaf is a very strong early laner, and you have a leash for that early game gank as well. Do not play around Bjergsen in the first few levels. There's a cleanse on the Azir. Try and shut down the Dyrus. He's not going to run anywhere once you get onto him, and maybe try and snowball your side lane for once.
And like I said, I think that matchup is very good. Just the mechanics of the matchup itself, right? Olaf is going to run at you. He's got slows, and you can even pop the ult to take away from a lot of things. The fact that Darius is so weak to chain CC and so weak to all the hard crowd control that can come through here, I do think Lise plus Olaf can be very strong. Dyrus has been putting in a ton of practice over the last couple of weeks, so maybe we'll see him play up to Ssumday's level. It's a tall task, but I think that is what's up here for Dyrus.
You know, we see a very comfortable composition for KT as well, too. They've got a safe ADC for Arrow, and they can play for the late game like they prefer.
We'll see if that's going to happen now, guys. As we load into the game, let us know who thinks got the edge in this one. Tweet at Elevate Esports with the hashtag TSM win or hashtag KTR win. We will see who you guys think is going to come out as we start off day 2. KT Rolster versus Team SoloMid. Both of these regions are so far undefeated in the World Championship, and either Korea or North America will end this game 3-0 across 3 teams. TSM, the major underdogs.
It's a high-stake match for both of these regions. And how about this, man? Korea 3-0 early on in groups at Worlds. Maybe not a big shock, but NA is stepping up. I mean, it's been LMS team so far. This would be the biggest win yet. I love this, like, team flare spam stuff, by the way. This is awesome.
Good Tigers had the best one yesterday.
Oh,
After
they did.
Aces, all 5 running to Baron. Looked beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
Early on, though, Team SoloMid might look to have a lane swap here with WildTurtle and Lustboy, send them towards the top lane, have the Vayne, sit in her own lane, get a few levels under her belt. We've seen a lot of teams try and lane swap on the Darius pick. Again, it's very hard for him to sit and farm on his own. He doesn't really have a whole lot of ways to get in safely. He just has to like spin that axe and hope he can last hit a minion or 2, and people simply try and delay his build.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen Ssumday on this championette. Obviously, when the patch came out where these juggernauts got buffed, that was after Korea had already finished their League of Legends before Worlds. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to see how he can perform, but he's kind of the ultimate carry top laner in Korea right now, so I'm not too worried.
Right now, we saw Dyrus show himself in the top lane where there is a ward, so he was pinged by KT. I'm not sure if TSM were aware of the ward being there, because he then snuck out around it, so maybe trying to bait it a little bit, some mind games early on from Team SoloMid.
There's a couple things that can happen here, especially if top laners like to start a camp early on. I've seen people will undercut the wave like Piccaboo's doing right here, and it really messes with the freezing capabilities. This will guarantee a freeze for KT, by the way. They've already piled the minions up. So already an interesting level 1 that I haven't seen before, actually, the support pulling the wave like this. Arrow and Piccaboo will have a very easy time getting this Gromp, though.
But obviously the map is completely divided. It also means KT can just start and take away everything on the top side jungle for themselves and not show anyone in the lane before minions were coming down anyhow. But same for both teams. Dyrus was showing himself on the top side. They do take a camp though for WildTurtle and Lustboy, so they will have to push this wave. But that's where Olaf comes in very handy. Because let him take a bit of damage in the jungle, make sure that passive really kicks in, and then get him onto these towers here, and he can take them down so fast. And 10-15 seconds matter quite a lot if you want to fast push in terms of how quickly you can turn back down to the bottom side and how much CS you can deny from the enemy top laner.
And they even made sure Dyrus took some damage. The bonus attack speed will help him clear that even faster, and we contrast that to the freeze that was initially started by KT. Here's the completely standard North American LCS turret push. Every team does this.
Yeah, they are going for a very fast turret, and it doesn't look like there's anything really that KT can do to stop this right now. Maybe a bit more pressure on the bot lane.
Yeah, but by contrast, they didn't pull a top laner or jungler over, so even though all these waves are getting denied, essentially the equivalent of a freeze, TSM gets so much more turret damage down.
Yeah, this is KT not reacting properly, in my opinion, when they see this fast push, because the problem now for them, they're not freezing. The only other play they can really make, unless they send members down to try and smack down the tower, is bounce it back from the wave and just let it freeze down. Just accept that you lost the tower, but at least you get a frozen lane for your AD carry, because TSM is already killing the tower. They can send down a guy to this bottom side. KT is just very delayed. They do, however, get a little bit more farm between top lane and jungle, but we saw Santorin just sit in the jungle himself and solo farm all the time.
Well, the real question is, once KT starts trying to get into the enemy jungle, you know, what's TSM going to do to stop it? I mean, they need to keep Piccaboo and Score out of their jungle.
Well, having Elise is a big part of that for Team SoloMid. That's why they were happy enough taking a trade saying, you will get Dyrus for Ssumday, we will get Elise for the early game for Santorin. So if you want to fight 2v2, we're ready to take it. They will not be able to get this tower. KT kept pushing the waves in, but there were only 2 members.
Well, TSM's picking different lanes. They're not sending the Vayne and the Braum down there. WildTurtle's heading to the top side, which means Dyrus and maybe some help will be holding that turret.
Well, Dyrus now in the bottom lane. He will be able to pick up quite some farm. He will get solo experience, and even if he loses the tower, it's not the end of the world for Team SoloMid because he's getting solo farm, while top lane, 2 versus 1 and no backup for Ssumday will be very difficult for him to pick up farm. So this is basically TSM saying we can guarantee experience on Dyrus at least because he has a tower for safety. Ssumday does not. So he has to either have jungle help all the time or he has to just back away.
Well, I mean, this is one of the ways that you keep Score and Piccaboo out of your jungle. You give them something else to worry about. Specifically, you give Score something else to worry about. He's got to kind of babysit Ssumday right now, and that's making it go a little bit TSM's way so far.
And he's already unwilling to babysit him. You saw the Darius recall back. WildTurtle is solo freezing the top lane. He gets that standard Vayne freeze that AD carries love while still getting the turret gold as well. Ssumday has to roam and try to make plays.
We have to see a 4-man dive on the bottom side for KT. That should happen right now, at least 4 Dyrus away. They're doing it.
They look for Dyrus.
Team SoloMid is reading it really well here, saying, okay, we've just seen Score move. We see Dyrus in the mid lane moving down as well. So we know exactly what's going on. So the best for KT now is just take that bottom tower and make sure that the Olaf does not get more farm and experience.
Yeah, looks like that's what they'll do right now. Ssumday Score lurking in the tri-brush. Dyrus obviously no scores around. They get the turret, so that ties things up gold-wise and turret-wise at least. But where do we go for a
Dyrus has to be careful about where he went. He just took a bunch of damage, but Bjergsen in the mid lane with his team coming in, flash forced away from Nagne.
Manages to make it out. That cocoon coming in just at the end, but it wasn't quite enough.
So 2 side lanes now are both pushing towards Team SoloMid. Up top, we have seen WildTurtle freeze for quite a while now. And then this wave here with Darius going down, Dyrus might just try and shove it out, but they're gonna go for him. He's getting a bit greedy.
A little bit of trouble here, maybe. No level 6. He's got no ultimate. Gets knocked up. He's in a lot of trouble, and that will be first blood going to Ssumday, and that is exactly who you do not want to get the first kill if you're TSM.
Yeah, they did so much to try and shut down Ssumday in the start. Gave a frozen wave to WildTurtle, deny him CS. KT reacted properly. They went all the way down to the bottom side, and Dyrus should just have stayed back. Because you knew there were so members, exactly.
Yeah.
You knew there were so many guys on the bottom side, and he gets punished.
It's a bit surprising. Bjergsen doing what he can in the mid lane. Nagne, though, behind in farm, trying to keep up as best he can. But this is perfectly fine for Nagne. He's used to being down in CS and lane. This is just kind of how he plays the game. Just wants to stay safe and be relevant later.
What's incredible about this, though, is that even despite the 600 gold worth first blood, KT Rolster actually just tied in gold with TSM here.
Yeah.
SoloMid are the only team at this tournament to normally have a gold deficit at 50 minutes in their region. We're halfway there, and TSM actually holding equal is better than their average early game, to be completely fair about this one. Up against KT Rolster, at least it bodes well. It's a promising trend for TSM, though of course there's so much more to play in this game.
Well, I'm a little bit worried about Dyrus on the other side, though. I mean, he's still down by a lot of CS. He's down in levels. And now that he's in the 1v1 versus Ssumday, he's got to be pretty careful. I guess WildTurtle did show up. Probably pretty smart of TSM to give Dyrus a little bit of a hand there.
They can take the dragon out if they want something, because Arrow is stuck on the top side and he's just slowly pushing it out. But Dyrus has to make sure he catches that big wave that's going to go near his tier 1 tower on top side once Arrow pushes it out. It's so key for him. He's already fallen behind and he cannot afford to fall further. Piccaboo is not going to see anything with the ward.
TSM heading for a 4-man dive on a Ssumday themselves, but of course Piccaboo is here for the defense.
Bjergsen is coming as well.
He's got some, Score is there.
3v5.
There's a lot of people down on the bottom side of the map. Is TSM actually going to go for it? That turret has a lot of help. Nagne moving down. Here comes a wave. They're trying to clear
gets aggroed too early.
Comes with the knockup. Lustboy takes a lot of damage from the turret. Ssumday gets slow, gets taken down by WildTurtle. The melee continues, so Emperor's Divide used. Santorin flashing away, and it looks like at the end of the day, only Ssumday going down.
And that was about 5 summoner spells burned for TSM. They spent a lot of effort, and Arrow is still farming in the top lane. That will reach the turret and bounce right back. I don't know if that was even all that good for TSM.
There's teleport for Dyrus, so they gotta kill down the bottom side. They played that dive really, really well, and he's gonna catch this big wave. So I like it still for them because they're getting some farm. They know it's only a 1v1 lane. I like the play as well. We had the situation. Do you want to take Dragon and play it super safe? No, they said we can 5-man dive with Bjergsen because he had been pushing the lane. This is where the pressure in these lanes come in. He could roam first and therefore go for the dive.
Dyrus is taking so much damage, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting hit a little bit in this lane, and also it's now teleport advantage for KT. Ssumday is already 6, and Score heading up to this side as well. Dyrus is getting picked on, and he can't leave the lane easily.
And that's the problem when you run out of a lot of good options. When there's only one left, it's really like we gotta just dive here because we need something for our top laner. He's already falling behind, and all of it is just trying to get Dyrus back in this game.
Oh, gonna try to make play. Dyrus starting the recall, has to burn that flash to get out.
He didn't actually have to. Score had no way of actually getting the unburrow underneath, but
scary, man, when a big monster comes out of the ground.
I understand the decision there by Dyrus, but just technically, even though it does give the red buff away, KT has control, and this is interesting. They're actually playing the top side of the map, knowing that Ssumday can get up there. And KT, instead of playing for Dragon, are playing for Arrow.
Well, it's beginning, guys. What are we seeing? Piccaboo and Score getting into the jungle, forcing people back.
Trying to do exactly the same.
And they will land the stun.
Ssumday.
He's gonna go in.
He's in a lot of trouble, and he gets out. All right,
red buff
not
trade.
as much trouble.
Yeah, red buff trade. Both top laners pushed out of their respective lanes, so both these guys getting very, very little farm.
Yeah, both teams basically mirror each other, but Dyrus seems to constantly get caught out a little bit and forced to either flash away or run away. Ssumday had no problem just walking out of the jungle, but both teams looking at where's the AD carry pushing in the waves. Do we want to deny it? Yes. We want to take tower? Yes. So therefore we have support and jungle as the backup around the lane. Just applying pressure, looking for some picks.
Yep. Nagne and Bjergsen still dueling in the mid lane. Nagne's managed to kind of stem the flow of CS as we see WildTurtle take out this tier 1 down in bot. Nagne only 20 CS down now, but a lot of pressure on this top lane tier 2. Look at this score.
Guys heading in. TSM did it 3 minutes ago. KT says, we can do it too, and beautifully executed. Wow. No summoners lost from what I can tell. Much better dive by KT.
But really KT was simply about 10 seconds ahead of Team SoloMid. By the time they took down the tier 1 tower, pushed in for the next one, they could go for the play while WildTurtle was still busy on the bottom side, hadn't recalled yet. They knew it was a safe dive. And we see so many tower dives in the early game in this meta here. And all of them so far, it's not even been that risky. There's always been a numbers advantage for the team diving. It's never been like a 3v3 or anything crazy.
Yeah, well, this is fascinating too because we're seeing KT kind of give up this first dragon. We're really in a very different meta now. And so the question is, you know, who's going to adapt better in this tournament? KT trying to show what they've got. Nagne taking a lot of pounding in the mid lane. Still okay for the moment anyway.
Well, that's what's so interesting about this game is it's an extended lane swap. TSM went back to the lane with the turret death when they first knocked it down. This game has never had a heads-up 2-on-2 matchup, including the AD carries and supports. And so based on where you are in the map, that dictates which objectives you get. TSM get the first dragon, and they keep the gold basically identical here.
And if we think about it, Team SoloMid has never really been known for having a great 2v2 bottom lane with WildTurtle and Lustboy. So hiding them a little bit is a smart idea, and at the same time, they try to shut down Ssumday as much as possible by sending WildTurtle back and zone him off the creeps, forcing him to go on all the way to the bottom lane. But Dyrus has just been sacrificed a few times, so KT has found openings where he stayed for too long, and then they just managed to get kills onto him, which has been important for them in keeping up in gold.
Do you feel like we're seeing kind of more of the same Dyrus, like you said, sort of sacrificed?
Well, TSM has just played so hard around their AD carry. I mean, both teams really have. Ssumday hasn't gotten a lot of help from his team. He's been TPing in to get ganks for Arrow.
I think we've just seen a difference between the two top laners. Ssumday always seemed to know when he couldn't stay and just walked away and didn't risk getting killed.
That's a good point.
Where Dyrus was more staying in lane, trying to either push it out or stay on the tower, knowing there was a chance of a 4-man dive, and that's why he's died twice.
Yeah, very true. You know, now I think we're going to see the focus shift for KT down to the bottom half of the map. They've gotten what they need to do on top.
The problem is there's nothing to do down there. All 4 outer turrets on the side lanes are already dead, and Dragon's gone for the next 4 minutes. Arrow has a little bit of time to go till his Trinity Force comes in, but unless they try to siege down mid, which, to be fair, is possible, there's nothing to fight for unless you really want to commit down to a tier 2 turret.
It's some fairly unreliable wave play from Team SoloMid. It's just Bjergsen who can like jump into the wave with distortion, and you can never do that if a team is already sieging. You have a Trinity Force 80 carry with Sheen completed, you have an Azir who's going Nashus. The siege is fairly decent for KT to start poking us out and keep Bjergsen under control.
Oh, Nagne taking a lot of damage.
Ignite
This could be the 1v1 Ignite. Will be enough, not quite.
And that's
Nagne
really
gets
the
out
thing.
that cleanse.
Bjergsen keeps looking for these trades here. He does really well in this one-on-one, so KT needs to find a way to control him. That's going to be by sending multiple members to this mid lane and just push the LeBlanc into a tower.
Yeah, I mean, and you would expect a player like Bjergsen in a 1v1 dueling situation be able to beat a player like Nagne, but he didn't get the kill. The question is, can he get far enough ahead to make that difference in the late game? He's got a decent CS
at
lead
most
still,
of the
though.
turret.
Yeah.
Now here's
Good start.
I know. There's so many interesting things in this game. I wish I could talk about all of them, but as an AD carry, both outer turrets being down, it is so hard to play against Vayne as any other AD carry in the game. Arrow has to pretty much always respect WildTurtle in the one-on-one because of the champion matchup here. And if you ever get an extended lane phase again, it's just hard to be Kog'Maw.
And we just keep seeing how the side lanes are pushed towards either team. So bottom side now was pushed in, then Dyrus gets a big wave. Before it was down to Ssumday, he got the wave and...
Nagne, that was not a good decision. Bjergsen
Oh, he missed
failed the
that
kill.
one.
He missed the Empress of Adam. There's a kill for Bjergsen in the 1v1 in mid.
Bjergsen, he kept trying. This time around, there was no summoners in the mid lane. He gets another engage and some misplays come in from Nagne. But in the end, Team SoloMid, we highlighted how this mid lane matchup is where they can really get far ahead. And Bjergsen has been on fire so far.
I gotta say, Nagne's looking a little bit flustered in this mid lane now. That was a pretty poor duel we just saw from him, and you can't do that against a player like Bjergsen. He will take every advantage he can from every tiny mistake you make.
EU mid laners, man.
In NA versus Korea, the EU mid laners reign supreme.
It's a global game. Let's watch this one again.
This is the E, wants the shield from it. Bjergsen somehow lands the chain while Nagne's moving, and then again, Bjergsen expects the ult or something, but happens to walk around the sign to never get CC'd.
I thought maybe he expected Ssumday to get there a little bit quicker too. That could have been part of it, but either way, not the strongest play we've ever seen from Nagne.
But due to Team SoloMid keeping the Vayne in the side lane, keeping the Olaf in the side lane, catching farm, pushing waves down, they force KT to respond and defend those side lanes so they cannot group on Bjergsen. And as we mentioned before, use your Azir, use your Trinity Force 80 carry to start pushing in and just avoid this one-on-one. That's going to happen again and again. So far, good job with the 1-3-1.
You know, the biggest thing to me is when I look at the minimap right now, what I don't see is wards on TSM side from KT. And when you don't see that, it's usually meaning a KT loss is coming in. So, yeah, if you're a KT fan, you got to start to get a little bit worried about the situation now.
I mean, meanwhile, look at the vision. We're 50 seconds from Dragon. You can see 4 wards in this southern jungle. Score will clear 1. He's got a defensive pink, but there's 3 more that KT have yet to deal with here. TSM doing a very good job of kind of beating KT at their own game. The jungle support rooms have been okay, and they've been getting Dragon control.
And once again, it just opens up for Bjergsen to continue sitting in the mid lane. Slowly, he will push down his tower. If Nagne stays for too long, he might even die.
Big chunk of damage dealt there.
It is not going to get better for KT because they've lost control of their own jungle. So we get to see the pushes happening in every lane. Dyrus is just sitting and farming for himself whenever there's a wave. And now TSM saying, you know what? It's time to take down the tower.
Yeah, and TSM starting to pull farther and farther ahead. It's a small gold lead, but it's much more about the vision, about the positioning. TSM's got it all right now. Oh, we might see a fight here in this mid lane. Score gets caught with the chains, but they're not going to follow it up. Dragon is live.
Arrow's getting a lot of damage down.
That's right, Santorin has to flash away the flash. Oh! They get 2 with the E. There's a Brahma coming in, but the knockup from Piccaboo. KT, this could be the fight they're looking for. Pushing TSM back right now. They got a kill on Santorin, and they are just going to go for this mid lane turret.
Exactly what KT wanted here. Ssumday is still very strong on his Dyrus. He's finally part of the team fight. They got together as a group. This team, they want to fight 5 versus 5 and not take these 1 versus 1s against a Vayne, against a LeBlanc. That's not in their favor.
Well, they got the team fight, and they're going to get 2 turrets out of that as well. Can probably just go for Dragon on the way out. We'll see if they decide to do it.
It's a bit risky because there are all the respawns coming in for TSM. Santorin doesn't exactly have any ults to worry about here, so it's going to be interesting. Looks like KT will be recalling, which could give TSM the chance to knock that down.
And we'll see. Either way, a little...
Yeah, this is TSM's Dragon.
I think so. A little gold lead for KT. TSM, though, gets that second Dragon, so the pressure is on. It's bizarre to see KT in a situation where the other team is up 2 Dragons like this.
I don't think in this game, though, they care. Because you just got 2 mid lane towers. You just won a team fight as well, where you were in a very bad situation, getting pushed in every single lane, basically. Maybe outside the top lane, where Ssumday was always in control. However, getting that goal lead back for KT, and the fact that they finally got to group, that's what matters for them. So now they also get a chance to get a few wards into the jungle of Team SoloMid, slow down the split push. And if we get to see them grouping up one more time with AD carry and mid lane together, KT should be able to at least keep track of where Team SoloMid is.
Should be. They did also use that opportunity to finally get some wards into TSM's jungle too, so they finally got a little bit more vision to work with. So I'm sure, if nothing else, they're in a little bit more comfortable of a situation now.
And it's interesting as well, you speak about being more comfortable. The fact that a Negatron Cloak is now in here for Nagne means those Bjergsen solo kills are going to be much, much less likely to happen. Bjergsen got a good laning phase. He got the turret first. He got a solo kill. That's good for him. But Nagne is in a full team fight power now. Took some wounds, but he's already back and recovered. Nashor's Tooth done. Level 11 is here. The team fight power is already here.
Yeah. Definitely is. And score. Going into the jungle there. Bjergsen's got an eye on him, though.
And this is very risky for KT because the mid lane once again is pushed down so far. WildTurtle is in the top side, so he cannot join in case there's a teleport coming in from Ssumday in a big team fight, but then he can just push in multiple towers towards the base. So once again, Team SoloMid is in a position where they should be able to hold because Bjergsen can always roam. So KT knows we cannot push this tower. It doesn't matter that there's minions. If we do it, we might just die to LeBlanc.
You know, one thing we haven't mentioned yet is the blue control that KT has had for a lot of the game. They've been able to get a lot of those blue buffs.
Yeah, good steal by them. And this was, again, just where the people were sent around the map. WildTurtle sent to the top side, the duel up against Ssumday, who has teleport. He can always show up on that bottom side. TSM has to respect that. And in fact, we saw a second ago, Nagne had run to the bottom lane to try to defend a top turret. They thought TSM was pushing, and that actually wasn't the case. WildTurtle was just on an island. He's just getting farmed. They're not really pressuring with him.
We're going to see a lot more Vayne, though, in this tournament. With big bruisers like Dyrus, of course, in the meta, having a Vayne who can so easily duel them, or at least avoid getting caught by them with her mobility, is going to be very important. And being able to, again, split up this map and take care of the tanks.
I do wonder at what point this Darius pick's mobility challenges are going to sort of catch up with the strength that it has in team fights.
Oh, TSM aren't really very good at being anti-melee is the problem. If they had like an Azir or a Victor, being Darius would kind of suck a little bit, but LeBlanc and Olaf aren't really going to punish that in team fights. I think Ssumday's going to be totally fine, and this first pick becomes justified as the game goes on.
Yeah, I mean, just meant in general with Darius.
Oh, sure,
This game he's okay, but...
There'll definitely be a lot of games.
2 people, man. That's pretty decent.
We've seen it already with Darius, how he's been a fairly safe option, honestly, for teams to have over in that top lane. He has a lot of good matchups. It's very hard to deal with him. He heals for a lot more now in team fights compared to before, so even there he has quite some presence. But often it is, as you just said yourself, you need that flash pull to start a fight, so you should never be the main engage as the Darius on a team. There needs to be something else. In this case, Piccaboo is on the Alistar to engage in even a knock-up from score to start the fight, so they're helping Ssumday getting there and make sure he can always get onto targets.
Meanwhile, new item alert here for Ssumday. Sterix Gauge picked up for him. It's a big damage increase, and it's a great tank item, actually, with a shield that pops when you get low. But he's not buying items that make him go faster. No Dead Man's Plate, no randoms for the CC.
I'm surprised to not see the Dead Man's Plate specifically. That seems to be pretty standard as a second item on Darius these days. Yeah,
we talked a little bit about this before the show as well, how some of these new items like Sterix Gauge here is super good. However, it doesn't really give you what you need as a big, low mobility bruiser, in the sense that your main weakness is getting and sticking onto targets for yourself. Like, getting that engaging, that will not help you. Dead Man's Plate will, but it does make you insanely strong if you finally get the one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, my general thought is it's a team game. You can pick champions for their strengths, and their weaknesses get covered by your teammates. Making Ssumday fast doesn't make him a better Darius. Making Ssumday unkillable and do 1,000,000 damage makes him the scariest frontliner in the game. And if you can rely on your team to set you up, you've got Alistair and Rek'Sai for some initiation power.
Sure.
I mean, that's the role, just to be a big, heavy frontliner. Ssumday will do that.
You know, another big thing to kind of take note of, I think, item-wise, is that Score's been able to pick up his Aegis now. Talk about making Bjergsen, you know, more trivial in team fights. That's going to be even less damage that he's going to be doing.
What's another thing about the changes in 5.16? The Aegis Aura went down to 15 magic resist from 20. So for champions like Arrow who aren't getting any other MR, it's actually worse for him. Of course, it's still good for Score and the rest of the lineup who are buying other Matadors items.
I suppose.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still good.
It all helps.
I'm just referencing patch changes because I love items.
Now, Bjergsen is 14 at the moment. He's going to hit level 16 fairly soon, at least for himself, which is one of these big spikes for the Blanc where he can really start one-shotting the back line. Arrow, of course, is behind him in levels as an 80.
Oh,
Ssumday. Don't care about that one. Jumping straight back to a distortion.
I gotta be careful, though. He took a lot of damage there, and with less than a minute until Dragon, they can't really afford to have that happen. Oh, WildTurtle comes in, contempt for Score against the wall here. Score has to burrow his way out. Shield thrown up by Lustboy as KT disengages. But again, Dragon is coming soon. You cannot lose someone right now.
No, it's going to be 3 Dragons for Team SoloMid if they get it. And with KT being forced back in base, giving up all control, at least towards the bottom side, not that Team SoloMid has taken over because they want to push this tower instead.
I don't know if they're going to get a lot done.
Siege on the tier 2. Arrow can do a lot of damage to Lustboy if he wants to, and he may. There's a chilling smite. Score comes on the side. Lustboy taken down. There's another kill for Ssumday. Lustboy just simply out of position.
Yeah, very strange. The rest of his team just walked back up the mid lane, but he stayed a little bit too long, and it's in the end. Score just ulties in behind him. Very important kill for KT.
Very awkward, and it may give them their first Dragon in the game, too.
Well, that's the thing is TSM, the rest of them had postured around Baron, daring KT to even try that. This is normal, like typical TSM. After 20 minutes, will dare you to take Dragon because they'll kill Baron instead. Lustboy didn't get the memo, went to the other side toward Dragon, and because of that pick, there is no threat, and a clean pickup for KT.
Yep. It's been one of the problems we can highlight for Team SoloMid in this game is that some of their members have been caught out when they shouldn't have, and that has given openings for KT to get ahead in goal here, to now get a second dragon, or get a first dragon instead of a third dragon for Team SoloMid, which could have been a very key thing. As we know, KT as well, once they are behind, don't always know exactly what to do on the map, and often rely on getting towards these 4 or 5 dragons and then look to close it out.
And well, that train has begun for KT Rolster. Started with a dip, 2 dragons down, but now they're back up on the lift, getting 1 dragon for themselves.
I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to the super late game, and it comes to 30 minutes plus, who do you really trust to make the better late game moves, better late game decision making? TSM is good in NA, but KT is just so strong overall. They have one of the longest average game times in Korea right now. If anybody knows late game, it's definitely this team.
Yeah, but for NA's sake, TSM is kind of the same way here. These are both the low kill, mostly map control focused teams. These are actually the 2 least bloody teams, kills plus deaths per minute.
We don't have a lot
games.
to do. It's sad for us, isn't it?
Well, this is why we kind of start talking about the histories of the players. That's why I'm glad you're on the cast. You know these Korean teams so well, and I start gushing about items. This is like how you expect KT vs TSM to go. 6 kills, 26 minutes.
And this is what we expect for Team SoloMid right now. They need to find a new objective where they can bait around and put Bjergsen in a position where he can assassinate a target. He's getting higher and higher up in terms of levels, but there's more and more magic resist coming on the side of KT, so it's not going to be easier for him to get these kills. And as long as there's map control or wards down, he can't find that assassination. And it's a problem, but we see them trying to use bait near the Baron. Come on, move closer. Someone gets out of position, then Bjergsen pops in and tries to get
Bjergsen coming in. Nagne tries to do some fancy dodging, just takes a lot of damage in return.
I mean, Nagne tries to land the E to get a shield to make that trade a bit easier. And you can see he keeps the control up in the mid lane thanks to the turret. But Bjergsen right now is about 500 gold shy of a Void Staff. That item comes through, that combo might actually kill Nagne in its own right. So that can always be a risk, but there's a lot of time that TSM has to wait, and Ssumday making a nice play here.
Yeah, slowing Dyrus down, doing a bit of damage. Misses that Q. Dyrus can always pop the ultimate to just walk right out if he needs to.
And Olaf is one of these champions here who's normally extremely strong in the early laning phase when it comes to these early duels here, but late game, it becomes very difficult for him to really take down anything, especially these big tanks like Ssumday. The one-on-one has been very much in favor of him because Ssumday's been getting the early kills as well. And by him just constantly having this pressure, he will keep control of where Dyrus is, and it means KT might be able to make the proactive move. Because again, they're still just waiting. They're just waiting, making sure Bjergsen cannot kill anyone, and then slowly scale up on your AD carry, scale up with your mid laner.
Yeah, KT has all day as far as they're concerned.
They're actually controlling the minion waves much better as well. Take a look at the farm leads on all these players, aside from specifically Bjergsen, who is ahead considerably. Every single one of the other 4 roles is better for KT, and now Dyrus pops the ult. The slow is enough to get him away just barely, but he's out of this lane.
Afraid it might be the end times for him.
There's typical TSM play, though. Right away, they're trying for it, and Dyrus can teleport.
Oh, Score comes in, too. With that ultimate himself, Nagne coming up, Bjergsen trying to zone him out. We can see on the minimap. Here comes Piccaboo, teleport coming in for Dyrus. Piccaboo goes in for the knockup.
No Kog'Maw.
Score coming in. Where is Kog'Maw? Ssumday needs to do the damage. Here he comes, arrow right there. Bjergsen very, very low. Kills coming in for WildTurtle though, but a double comes in for Nagne and KT. They've got the fight as WildTurtle caught by Ssumday. That's 3 kills now. A double kill for Arrow, that's 4. Might as well be an ace because they've got the Baron.
Very big mistake from Bjergsen in this fight here. He starts up by using his abilities on Piccaboo, who's parking his ulti anyway. So suddenly Nagne knows, oh, there's no threat of me being one-shot. I can move close and start dealing damage. Arrow obviously comes in fairly late, but because Bjergsen was not a threat to Nagne, he could pick up the kills. The rest of KT comes in. Team SoloMid is stuck in the Baron pit, and then there was nothing they could do.
Now, beautiful stuff. KT replying to this Baron attempt so very well. Here comes the Bjergsen combo. Q, E, gets chunked down, dodges away with his W, jumps back in. He's doing no damage whatsoever.
And look at Nagne here. He was on 50% HP, and yet he just stepped forward right next to Bjergsen. I don't care about you. You have no cooldowns right now. So I'm just going to take care of the rest of your team instead. So well played from KT, but also, again, a missed opportunity for Team SoloMid. Never, ever focus the Alistar. It's just not worth it when he jumps in.
You know, and that's exactly what Piccaboo wanted. He wanted to scare them, wanted to get right in their faces and force that out, and it worked like a charm. Not like an Ari charm, like a different, like a metaphysical kind of charm.
A little bit mixed communication as well from Team SoloMid here. Arrow was going to be late, so it could be a 5 versus 4 team fight. But it's like half the team were kind of staying on Baron, some of them were turning around, a little bit of everything, instead of just instant call saying, okay, disengage from Baron, take the team fight while the AD carry is gone.
Yeah. Bjergsen looking for a bit of redemption, nearly gets it with close to a kill on the Arrow. Should heal up pretty quickly though.
And now it's how much can KT Rolster take while this Baron buff is on. Dragon will respawn during its tenure, but they can also try to keep sieging. Azir and Kog'Maw, 2 of the very best of what they do, while Alistar plays bodyguard. This should be incredibly difficult for TSM to do anything. You guys mentioned earlier the low wave clear by TSM.
And Bjergsen from the side nearly takes down Score.
They do some damage, but the turret it can't run away. It can't heal up really. And you can see very little gets done by TSM as the turret loses more and more health.
Yeah, Bjergsen poking. Dyrus going very, very low. He's got to be careful here, but as a minion wave dies, KT needs to wait that cannon minion. Still doing a bit of work.
Azir loves being in this position where he has his own turret behind him, he has the Baron buff minion, and nothing you can really do to stop it right now. They're just waiting for Bjergsen to pick off a target on the side, and that can really be the go button for Team SoloMid. Yep. There's really no other main engagement.
Oh, the stun hits him!
By Piccaboo.
Bjergsen's got to get away from this one, but now the dive in towards the turret. Few more hits will do it, and Arrow's still safe in the back line. But the W's down, he's got to buy some time. Bjergsen again can only find Piccaboo as his target, who pops the ult, knows he's safe, and now KT can run right for this dragon. TSM are on the hunt, though.
Wow, they're actually going to try to tie up the dragons here, and this, if they can get this dragon, pretty much undermines everything TSM's accomplished this game.
Well, they're coming down for it. Bjergsen down to 50% mana for himself. The rest of Team SoloMid, though, except for Lustboy, are fairly healthy. Arrow,
he's going to
back down. Maybe KT said, you know what, we don't want to risk it. We're in a good position right now.
No flash for Ssumday. Score coming back in with the ult, with the burst comes down. What a pull! It stops the W, but the dragon comes through. No steal for Score. Ult's in for Lustboy, but it means Dyrus is by himself. He doesn't get the memo, takes so much damage. Oh, does not quite get sniped, but TSM does at least sneak the dragon.
Man, Vikings are not known for like running away, but Dyrus, he made it a thing that I think other Vikings will consider in the future because he actually lived.
This time he stayed alive.
Right.
The other times where he didn't run away, he died for it, and that has put him really far behind in this
might
game.
Cost him. They're going to lose this tier 2 turret for sure, and KT, even if they don't get the dragon, has been able to at least get something out of it each time.
And we got to see a early game here from Team SoloMid where it was clear what the plan was, you know, trying to shut down Ssumday. We have a strong laner in Olaf. If he can get rolling, we maybe can keep Darius down. However, because of these early deaths with him being caught out on the Olaf, the fact that KT managed to get a few picks, other than just Dyrus dying, of course, left and right, kept them even in gold at least. And then they get their first 5-on-5 team fight where the combo or where the composition is so strong. And from there on, they've kind of been in the lead. Because Team SoloMid could no longer just put up this 1-3-1 split push, because suddenly the map control were evened out. and KT's just been leading the charge from there.
And it looked like a lot of bad decisions in a row from TSM. There's Lustboy getting caught, taking the wrong exit from the mid lane after a kind of lackluster siege. Then the Baron attempt where they could have forced a find before, came around the wrong side.
They're going to go after score here.
It's some poke, it's not that important, but TSM again trying to make the exact same play. Can we set up Baron? If they put wards down now, they will last until that respawns. It's kind of the only play left. KT Rolster up so much gold right now.
I feel like I've seen this before. Piccaboo comes into the flash, headbutt pulverized Dyrus right away, pops out almost to get away. Lustboy taken down. Another kill for Arrow. Dyrus just immediately had to flee along with WildTurtle. TSM was not ready, and now WildTurtle caught on his own. Another kill for Nagne. Disaster for TSM.
There's so little they can do now. They're just trying to make some aggressive plays, maybe surprise KT, but it's not going to happen. KT are in full control. Bjergsen once again looking to see if he can flank and get one kill.
Yeah, it doesn't much matter what TSM do here. Piccaboo has been so incredibly good this game. 90% kill participation, practically a perfect score, taking almost all the damage and yet finding picks all the same. The Moby Boots Alistair just not being stopped at all. Again, trying to stop Bjergsen mid-combo, and KT in control of everything.
Now, what a great story for Piccaboo throughout this year, too, was the support for SK Telecom, sidelined with wrist issues, quit the team, said, I want to play, join KT, and it was a big part of getting this squad to Worlds, and he is performing at Worlds now. Awesome story for this guy over the course of the year.
Every single kill in the early game was him, and of course his trustworthy jungler right next to him.
Yep.
Walking down and finding Dyrus out of position, getting the kills. And that jungle support synergy is just so key in this meta here, because it's what sets up all these tower dives. It's what sets up the vision on the map. I will say, Santorin and Lustboy, though, were making plays as well at the same time. They just weren't able to find the same openings because Ssumday knew when to back away.
And just to kind of underscore how much Piccaboo has done for this team, the only best of match KT has lost has only been to SK Telecom T1. They have lost to no other teams in a best of series. Since that roster addition, he's been so much miracle sort of work for this team.
Even though that was a 3-0 loss to SK Telecom in the LCK Summer Finals, you still see this KT team come in and look so good. But on the other side, TSM, not looking bad at all. It's relatively small things, isn't it, that they need to go back and look at with this game. If they can fix them, they can be much, much more competitive going forward.
That's the thing with this World Championship. I feel like these teams are actually fair. Oh, dear Lord, that damage.
Whoa, that was a lot of damage from Arrow.
So these teams are all fairly close in skill level, a few outliers notwithstanding. It's one or two very catastrophic mistakes that pull the game out of contention anymore. Lustboy getting caught, TSM making the bad Baron call, game blown wide open, and KT no longer having any issues.
When you're talking about the world's best, it doesn't take much to separate the wins and the losses. Arrow just chasing away TSM. They've got that ward. Score maybe trying to come in from the flank here. Bjergsen catches him, but he's just not doing a ton of damage now. They catch Ssumday. They catch Piccaboo. Oh, could be back. KT coming in, though. Arrow manages to get the kill. Arrow, this Kog'Maw is untouched, and he is raining down chaos on TSM.
There is no threat on him whatsoever. This team has done so well to create chaos in the beginning. KT engaged the fight. TSM can't go back in. Arrow can do all the damage he wants. The front line is doing all the work.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Bjergsen trying to make plays. Got a big chunk out of Ssumday, but that's not going to save this inhibitor. It's not going to save the turret either, in reverse order, I guess. KT still pushing ahead for that win. Bjergsen just desperate to make plays, and TSM needs him to, but they need more than Bjergsen.
Yeah, KT now full control. They have been for the last 10-15 minutes. Really just a strong performance to show how you can get back into the game. Because they were suddenly being put in situations in the early game, maybe they didn't expect them, where Team SoloMid had that strategy, and instead we saw KT say, you know what, easy boys. What do we do now? Okay, where do we punish them? Who's out of position? And that's how they kept it even until we got the grouping. So smart game for KT.
Yeah, very, I would say, other than a few lost dragons early on, a very typical KT game. You know, it's playing it safe, methodical throughout, waiting for that late game strength, using the vision they gain to make those plays.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. So KT taking
rush
care of
time?
business.
It might just be for Team
There's
SoloMid.
two in base.
They kind of...
TSM had the opportunity to force really hard and make something happen there.
Right now,
Kog'Maw was
have
in
to rush
base.
it.
Kog'Maw was in base and Azir was far. That was actually a window TSM could have used. It's too late now
Still, you got to do just to take the fight and force KT to move
They
down
haven't
here
even
to
killed all the
river.
wards. They're standing on one. The sweeper missed it. TSM have nothing to do here. Two
all
inhibs are
going
dead.
wrong.
The mini waves are already pushing and nothing TSM can do.
Yeah, side wave control's been good for KT as well. TSM looking for an opportunity. WildTurtle gets caught though. Pushed back. The pulverize actually did not knock him up, I guess.
Piccaboo doesn't
Man,
like
just
the
make
patch
back-
notes right now. The slowed headbutt.
Dude, it was that was a close call. If they had caught WildTurtle there, that would have been basically game.
They're just gonna stop the recalls because super minions are already in the base. They're gonna be a fight though.
And there's the dive on in. Ssumday gets the Sterix shield pop, and here comes the rest of the fight. Piccaboo on the side. Ult already popped. TSM category, but that's okay for KT Rolster. The minions can win the game for them. And the big exchange from score. In comes Nagne. And it's going to be a bloodbath there. Here comes the Chaos Dug. Here comes everything. What can TSM do aside from run and cry and lick their wounds? Santorin going to be the last one to go down as Dyrus is already somewhere else on the map.
I don't even know where
already
Dyrus is.
inside.
I know he's back to base. He's like, sorry guys, there's some minions in the base. I'm kind of worried about him. Good luck, bye.
They would have won the game though for KT, so Dyrus will, for now, delay it. But come on, we're talking 10 seconds, and then KT's gonna push in. They won this game. They played it well. They got back. They got to late game, and they showed what they could do.
Death timers are too long. I mean, yeah, KT showing what they can do, and what they do is play a very, very solid mid and late game. Stayed safe early on, and second inhibitor goes down, and there goes the Nexus. KT will take down TSM Korea 3-0 and 8-2-1.
Big congratulations there to KT Rolster. They only gave up 3 deaths the entire time. All those pretty much in the early game. Closing this game out was pretty much textbook by these guys. Good job, KT.
I saw a very early game focus, composition, and strategy for Team SoloMid here. They're long in the mid lane to apply pressure. Olaf up in the top lane. Vayne, once she gets to play, can always be a split pushing threat as well. But just the individual mistakes really hurt Team SoloMid here. It made KT always have a way back into the game.
Yeah.
They found their way, and honestly, Team SoloMid is going to look at this game and be very disappointed at some of these early mistakes they made, because they are fairly easy for them to fix.
I mean, we saw some hope for